Hello everyone, and welcome to my Action Research virtual poster presentation. I'm Rabia Khan, and I will be talking to you guys about the topic that I chose, which is grouping students for collaborative work. So what are some strategies in grouping students together for collaborative work? During my placements, I've noticed that when it came to group work, some of my students felt demotivated to work because they did not want to work with certain students. They felt this way because of many reasons. The classroom environment consists of students who have various learning styles and/or abilities. Also, there are introverts who prefer to work alone because they can rely on themselves to get the work done at their own preferred pace. What I eventually ended up doing was allowing the students to pick their own groups. At first I thought it was a good idea, but then some students were complaining that their friends were goofing off and that they were worried about getting a bad mark. Some students wanted to work alone because they either had no friends or because they knew that they would be more productive whilst working alone. Needless to say, I struggled putting groups together because no matter what I did, letting them choose versus me choosing for them, I always got the same end result. So how can I effectively group students together for collaborative work without creating any bias and making sure that everyone feels included and is productive? Here are some definitions of central and relevant terms that I chose. Bias, which is the prejudice in favor of or against one thing, person, or group compared with another, usually in a way considered to be unfair. Inclusion is the action or state of including or of being included within a group or structure. Productivity is the state or quality of producing something with effectiveness. Collaboration is the action of working with someone to produce or create something. Demotivate is to make someone less eager to work or study. Introvert is a shy or reticent person. Multiple intelligences. So the theory of multiple intelligences was developed in 1983 by Dr. Howard Gardner, a professor of education at Harvard University. It suggests that the traditional notion of intelligence based on IQ testing is far too limited. So this is my literature annotated bibliography. This is source number 1. The article discusses how in schools with a small percentage of ELL students, it is difficult to pull them aside and group them together because they all vary in age and grade. The author talks about when, in a situation such as this, the school should integrate the ELL students with the rest of the students in their grade and class instead of segregating them. It can be beneficial for both ELL and non-ELL students because they can help each other out. She claims that social inclusion can benefit student experience and increase academic achievement levels. The article is geared towards students and principals who believe in pulling students aside into small groupings based on their lack of English literacy skills. This article proves to be weak for my action research because it does not provide a way to group students without the use of some bias. However, it does suggest to group students based on their different language levels, which can be deemed helpful for grouping students in language arts. Instructors can benefit from this article because they can learn to create an inclusive environment for students without making them feel excluded from a large group setting. Here's my second source. This article takes a look at finding flexible grouping strategies within a multi-age classroom, as the title suggests. The author suggests using varying grouping sizes such as partners, small groups, individually, or whole group. She focuses on grouping strategies such as taking a look at the students' interests or their needs by posing a question on the board and sorting them into different levels based on their responses. This article is geared towards educators who have students of varying ages within their classrooms, such as teachers who have pods or split classes. I would assume it would be beneficial for those types of teachers, and it would also be useful for people who run tutoring or after-school programs because they must deal with students of all ages. This article is useful in the sense that it deals with students of all ages, and sometimes there are students who are the same age but learn at a different age level. Therefore, it is essential to learn how to integrate these types of students with others. And my other source stresses upon how educators have always considered popular grouping strategies such as putting students together based on their interests, student achievement, likability, or varied ability. The author goes on about how future educators must take certain measures and break the cycle of grouping where students feel discouraged. Although this article addresses many different grouping strategies, it talks about finding alternative methods instead of the popular go-tos that teachers feel comfortable using. So the summary for my literature sources that I picked. After concluding some research for my question, how can I effectively group students together for collaborative work without creating any bias and making sure that everyone feels included and is productive? I found that each article focused on grouping students based on their ability, academic achievement, and interests. The first article looked at ELL students and whether or not they should be grouped together or integrated with the rest of their classmates. I feel as though it may seem beneficial to put ELL students together because their language skills are at the same level. It would be a better to pair them up with students who excel in English. This way, the high-level student can improve the low-level students' linguistic ability in reading, writing, and oral communication. Also, the high-level student will gain leadership skills by taking on this extra level of responsibility. The article about grouping students in a multi-age classroom would be useful in a split grade class because the students are learning information from two different curriculum grade levels. This article also believes in the theory that grouping students based on similar interests or various abilities are successful strategies for teachers to use. I, however, believe that older students should be paired with younger students so that they can help and learn from each other. This strategy will encourage students to branch outside of their grade and be more social with younger and older students, as well as foster a safer environment because if a younger student is prone to being bullied, etc., the older student can therefore step in and break it up. I remember back in my elementary school days, the primary junior students used to have reading buddies from intermediate senior grades. It allows for these students to have a sense of nurture and care for the little ones and also promotes good behavior because they are less likely to get into bad things as they want to come across as good role models. I really enjoyed the last article because it talks about the same strategies as the first two articles and classifies them as popular grouping strategies that educators tend to use. My goal is to stray away from these types of grouping strategies because the students are able to tell you that you're grouping them based on their abilities and/or academic achievement. This then discourages students from participating in any group activities because they view themselves as unintelligent or unpopular. I also want students to feel as if the selected groups were randomly created or as if it were the student's choice without them knowing the strategy behind the grouping. There are a few simple strategies that I've learned from the articles I've read, and I wish to take a look at those and configure them so that the teacher and students are both content. These strategies leave the students feeling as if they're in charge, but can be tweaked in such a way so that the teacher has a grouping they require. Using a shuffled deck of cards and sorting students in groups of 4 by giving them a king, queen, jack, ace, etc., they must then find the table that corresponds to their card. Or, using popsicle sticks in a jar and having a student pick out their partner's name from random is another method. So here's my research action plan. Data sources. I will be collecting data from the various resources that I have found. The teachers claim to have used some of the strategies within their own classroom and have formulated unbiased yet productive groupings. I will also be using some of the strategies from this website on Google as it contains some vital information on the different types of grouping teachers could use. I will take some anecdotal notes on the different types of groupings and see which ones work and which ones don't work based on the data below. The grouping strategies that I will use are numbering my students from 1 to 5, handing out playing cards and having them get into a group with the students who have the same card as them, popsicle sticks with students' name on them and have to draw one randomly from a jar, picking students alphabetically from the class list, etc. First, I will have the students pick their own groups so that I have something to compare it to, as I know that they will be picking their friends to work with. Based on the data from the first set of groupings, I will then determine if the productivity levels have gone up or down by using an action checklist with the criteria below of what a productive group should look like, sound like, and feel like. A productive group should look like everyone is actively participating and contributing to the workload. It should sound like lots of task-related discussion happening, questions about the task are being asked, and feel like everyone is content and no one feels stressed or looks disinterested. I will take pictures of the different grouping strategies that I've used for documentation purposes and have the students fill out an exit card based on if the group activity was successful or not. The exit card will contain questions such as, did you feel as if you got more work done by working with your friends in the first group or by working in this randomly selected group? Which task are you most proud of? The friends group or the random group? And on a scale of 1 to 5, how satisfied are you and how does this group make you feel? Triangulation, validity, and reliability. Based on the previous slide alone, I will be using some of the different types of strategies such as numbering my students from 1 to 5, handing out playing cards, and having them get in a group with students who have the same card as them. Popsicle sticks with students' names on them, and have them draw one randomly from a jar, and picking students alphabetically from the class list. First, I will have the students pick out their own groups so that I have something to compare to, as I know that they will be picking their friends to work with. By using the data from my anecdotal notes, pictures, action checklists, and exit cards of what a productive group should look like, sound like, and feel like, I will then use the most successful grouping strategy to group students together for future collaborative projects. In order to calculate the validity and reliability of each type of grouping, I will then ask some students as well as teachers on which groupings worked for them and why. I will compare the set of data to the one of the students' grades and see if they have improved from the first groupings with their friends to the groupings that were selected randomly using the various grouping strategies from above. To ensure that my data collection source is valid and reliable, I will be focusing on a select number of students and comparing them to how they work with their friends to how they work in a randomly selected group. Participants and setting. My associate teachers and students from my past placement schools, such as Hawthorne Village, Irma Colson, Peel Robertson, will be participating in my experiment. I will be focusing on several grade 8 students because of my previous experience with that age group. Students who tend to always pick their friends and students who have a hard time finding a group will be my main target for this activity. I will observe my students for the first couple of weeks during group projects to determine who they gravitate towards when choosing other members for their group. This way, I'll know who their friends are. I'll be using the action checklist and record anecdotal notes based on what the productivity looks, sounds, and feels like when students choose their own groups. Here are some ethical considerations. So the research that I conduct will remain confidential. Teachers and students are required to fill out and sign a non-disclosure agreement to ensure that their privacy is safe. I will obtain permission from my students, teachers, and parents, and the principal before I conduct my research and have them sign a waiver. I can then ask other colleagues to do the same so that I can compare my research with theirs. The information generated by the project will be owned by myself and my professor for this course. All parties involved will be made aware of the research. Letters will be sent home to ensure parents are also aware. All of the saved data will exclude students' full names and images. Any pictures of students will be taken from behind or their faces will be blocked for their privacy. Timeline chart, data collection process. So data will be collected during the third and final placement of the teaching block, which is between February and April. The types of data I will collect are anecdotal notes and pictures from classroom observation, and it will be collected regularly during group and collaborative work, weekly every Friday between the end of February till the beginning of April for the monthly seating plans. Action checklists, what productivity looks, sounds, and feels like. That will be conducted regularly during group collaborative work, weekly reflections captured at the end of each week from February to April of progress if possible. And then exit passes completed by the students and the associate teacher each time during the collaborative work will be ongoing between February and April. Data analysis. I will be analyzing my 3 sources of data, which will include the anecdotal notes, pictures, action checklists, and exit passes, to see if any progress has been made. In order to see if any progress has been made, I will compare that data to that I have collected of the participants' marks and see if their marks and productivity levels have gone up, gone down, or stayed the same. In order to ensure that my data is valid and reliable, I will use the same students for my research. I will have these students pick their groups for the first round because they will most likely choose their friends, and then I will compare that first group to all the other groups based on the grouping strategies that I have conducted. Closure. Designing this action research study will support my knowledge of teaching and will influence my teaching practice by allowing me to be a non-biased teacher and to ensure that my students are productive and working collaboratively and cooperatively towards a common goal. By doing this, I want them to develop their social skills and learn how to problem solve on their own. I also want to create an inclusive and safe environment for all, and I will be carrying out these different grouping strategies for when I have a class of my own. Thank you for listening to my action research plan, and I hope you had a great time. Bye.